Imagine being called the next Warren Buffett before you even hit 30. A math prodigy, a crypto genius, a philanthropist promising to give away billions. The media worshipped him. Investors threw money at him. Celebrities like Tom Brady and Larry David lined up to endorse him. But it was all a lie. This is the story of Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF, the founder of FTX, the crypto exchange that went from a $32 billion empire to complete ruin. He wasn't your typical billionaire. He wore cargo shorts, lived in a messy penthouse, and played League of Legends during investor calls. But none of that mattered. He was charming, disarming. And most of all, he sounded like he understood crypto when no one else did. At the height of the pandemic, when Bitcoin and Ethereum were exploding, SBF positioned FTX as the safe, sleek, professional face of crypto. No meme coins, no scams, just a clean platform backed by institutional money. Or so we thought. Behind the scenes, FTX was a house of cards, and the entire thing was built on a secret. SBF was funneling customer funds from FTX into his personal hedge fund, Alameda Research. Billions of dollars were being shifted in the shadows, and no one noticed. How? Because Sam played the game perfectly. He donated to politicians. He gave to journalists. He paid for Super Bowl ads. He bought naming rights to an NBA arena. He even talked about ethics and effective altruism, a movement to use wealth for good. But in reality, he was using customer money to fund risky trades, luxury properties, and a toxic web of conflicts. And it all came crashing down in November 2022. A leaked balance sheet, a few tweets. A crypto bank run. Within days, $8 billion vanished. Customers were locked out. Withdrawals frozen. And the world realized this wasn't just a bad bet. This was fraud. But the real shock? No one saw it coming. Not regulators, not VCs, not celebrities, not the public. Because Sam Bankman-Fried was the golden boy, and nobody wanted to look too closely. That's where the story begins. But what really happened inside FTX? Who helped him pull it off? And how did this kid from Stanford go from future of finance to criminal trial? It gets deeper and darker. To understand how Sam Bankman-Fried pulled off one of the biggest financial collapses of the 21st century, you have to go inside the $40 million penthouse in the Bahamas, where he and his closest lieutenants lived, worked, and schemed. This wasn't just a company. It was a cult. FTX and Alameda Research were run by a tight-knit group of 10 friends, many of them MIT grads or connected through Jane Street, a high-frequency trading firm where Sam got his start. These weren't hardened criminals. They were awkward, brainy, idealistic, and dangerously underqualified. At the center of it all, Caroline Ellison, the CEO of Alameda Research and Sam's on-again, off-again girlfriend. She had a math degree, a Tumblr blog full of Harry Potter references, and suddenly she was managing billions in crypto assets with zero risk controls. Sam made her CEO because he trusted her, not because she was qualified. And that was the theme across the board. In this inner circle, no one asked hard questions. No one pushed back. And when it came to money, there were no guardrails. They used QuickBooks to manage billions. Decisions were made in Signal chats. Expenses weren't tracked. Loans were handed out to employees with no documentation. One exec got a $55 million loan. For what? Nobody knows. They thought they were the smartest people in the room, but they weren't even doing basic accounting. And the real kicker? Alameda had special access to FTX. While customers thought they were trading on a fair, clean platform, Alameda had a secret backdoor, letting them withdraw customer funds without triggering alarms. Billions quietly disappeared from FTX accounts and reappeared on Alameda's books. That wasn't just negligence. That was deliberate. But here's the wildest part. While this fraud was happening, Sam was being propped up as a savior. When other crypto platforms collapsed in early 2022, Sam swooped in, bailing them out like a mini Federal Reserve. Voyager, BlockFi, and others got FTX money, which wasn't actually FTX money. It was customer money. He became the white knight of crypto, even as he was robbing the vault. And no one in his inner circle stopped him, because they were in too deep, living off the money, drunk on the influence, and convinced they were changing the world, until it all fell apart. The first cracks came quietly. In November 2022, a report leaked showing Alameda's balance sheet. And it was ugly. Instead of holding real assets, most of Alameda's wealth was tied up in FTT, a token that FTX itself had created out of thin air. It was circular, fraudulent, a house of cards. And when Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao, known as CZ, saw it, he pulled the trigger. CZ tweeted that Binance would be selling off its FTT holdings. The crypto world panicked. Billions in FTX customer funds were withdrawn in just 48 hours. A classic bank run, only faster, global, and on-chain. And when customers tried to get their money out, it was gone. FTX froze withdrawals. Sam went silent. And the crypto community, which once worshipped him, turned instantly. But the real shock came when the balance sheets were opened. FTX owed over $8 billion. And most of that money belonged to regular users. Not hedge funds, not institutions, but individual investors. People who thought they were safe. Turns out Sam had been borrowing user deposits through Alameda and spending them like monopoly money. Private jets, luxury real estate, political donations, even a $1.4 million investment in a shrimp farm. Yes, really, shrimp. And the list of victims kept growing. Pension funds, university endowments, celebrities like Tom Brady and Larry David, all caught in the blast radius. The U.S. government moved fast. Within weeks, the Department of Justice filed charges. The SEC, the CFTC, everyone piled on. And just like that, the golden boy of crypto was facing decades in prison. But the craziest part? When authorities arrested Sam in the Bahamas, he still insisted he did nothing wrong. He claimed it was just a mistake, a liquidity crunch, that he never intended to defraud anyone. But the documents told a different story. Billions missing. Secret code built into the FTX platform. Personal loans to execs. Political donations laundered through straw donors. And messages where Sam admitted, in his own words, that much of his image, the philanthropy, the ethics, was just PR. This wasn't a nerd who got in over his head. It was a con. Disguised as a startup, shielded by buzzwords, enabled by power. And soon, everyone would know just how deep it went. Once the dominoes started falling, there was no stopping the collapse. FTX filed for bankruptcy. Over 130 affiliated companies went down with it. Customers lost life savings. Employees were blindsided, and crypto markets plunged overnight, wiping out over $200 billion in value. Bitcoin tanked, trust vanished, and the entire industry faced an existential crisis. But the real chaos started in the courtroom. Sam Bankman-Fried, once hailed as the new Warren Buffett, was now prisoner #372904. And his inner circle, they flipped fast. Caroline Ellison, his on-again, off-again girlfriend and CEO of Alameda, took a plea deal. So did Gary Wang, FTX's co-founder and longtime friend. They both admitted that Sam had directed them to misuse customer funds. They testified that he knew everything, approved everything, even designed the secret backdoor in the code that let Alameda drain billions from FTX undetected. But Sam's defense? I didn't know. I just messed up. He told reporters it was a mistake. He tweeted apologies. He did interviews from house arrest. But the damage was done. Turns out this wasn't just a business failure. It was fraud. At scale. With receipts. The court documents showed it all. Sam took over $2 billion in personal loans from company funds. He used shell companies to donate nearly $100 million to political campaigns. He bought luxury properties in the Bahamas for executives and their parents. It wasn't a startup that failed. It was a lie that unraveled. And behind the scenes, lawmakers panicked. FTX had lobbied heavily in Washington. They were pushing crypto regulations that would have made it even easier for them to operate unchecked. They were the face of safe crypto. Now, that face was a mugshot. The backlash was brutal. Congress hauled in regulators. Crypto CEOs were dragged in for questioning. And suddenly, the Wild West era of crypto was under fire. Sam had become the poster child for everything wrong with the industry. But still, people asked, how did nobody catch this? How did venture capitalists, regulators, media outlets, and even financial celebrities miss a fraud this massive? The answer? Everyone was hypnotized by the narrative. The philanthropy, the MIT degree, the cargo shorts and nerdy hair. But behind it all, I was a guy playing a role. And billions vanished before anyone realized the show was fake. In the aftermath of the FTX collapse, one truth became impossible to ignore. Sam Bankman-Fried wasn't a misunderstood genius. He was a master illusionist. Everything. The math prodigy story, the sleep on a beanbag image, the effective altruist identity was part of a brand. A carefully crafted persona designed to make people not ask questions. And it worked. Big-name investors like Sequoia and SoftBank handed him hundreds of millions without doing basic due diligence. Influencers, journalists, even politicians all bought into the myth of SBF. Why? Because we wanted to believe in him. He wasn't just promising returns. He was promising meaning, impact, a smarter way to get rich and save the world. It felt new. It felt important. But it was old-school fraud in a new hoodie. Sam created a feedback loop of credibility. The more he was praised, the more people trusted him. The more they trusted him, the less they asked. Meanwhile, FTX kept taking user funds and handing them to Alameda, again and again, until the house of cards collapsed. And when it did, it left a crater. People lost everything. Ordinary investors, young believers, crypto startups that had parked their runway cash on FTX. But even after the arrest, the question kept echoing, was Sam a monster or just a kid who got in over his head? His supporters pointed to his awkwardness, his idealism, his youth. His detractors pointed to the wire fraud, the deception, the arrogance. But the bigger lesson? It wasn't about crypto. It was about trust. FTX didn't fail because of blockchain. It failed because no one was watching the people in charge. No one forced transparency. No one asked the hard questions. And Sam knew that. He leveraged every broken incentive, media hype, political donations, and startup culture's obsession with speed over scrutiny, to build a Ponzi scheme with better branding. In the end, the fall of FTX isn't just a tech story or a crypto scandal. It's a warning. That charisma can disguise corruption. That doing good can be a shield for doing harm. And that in the world of money, trust is everything. Until it isn't. Because when the smartest guy in the room stops being questioned, that's when the real danger begins. This is Midnight Watch. Subscribe if you want more real stories about wealth, fraud, and the people who fooled the world.